Hello friends and welcome home. I'm Jamie James and today we are on our second part of our series that we are doing about break week for homeschooling. So I said it in the previous video, but a break week in homeschooling is when you just pause the majority of your homeschooling lessons to look over how everything is running and operating, how school is getting done, and organizing things in your home so that you can continue on feeling successful, feeling like your cup is full and overflowing for the rest of the year. This is something that I have been practicing for quite a while, and I would say it has sustained me as we have been homeschooling for now about 12 years. With my kids who are now ages 15 years old, 11, twin 15-year-olds, 11, and a 6-year-old. The first thing that I do when I assess for homeschooling and how are we doing is what is my schedule as the mom? How am I doing? How is my schedule running and operating? Are anything that is really vital or important being dropped or forgotten during the weeks? That is the kind of thing that I am first going to look at. So for me personally, I have two different ways that I keep track of what I am supposed to be doing. The first one is my planner, my daily schedule, and that combines with my phone. So I use my phone app for all important events, and then I use a planner that is just for each week, and I put into that the major categories. And I will go into my planner a little bit more in another video, but essentially the way that I do my planner is I do a block schedule. So I have an area or a block of time that I use for every part of our day that I need to make sure that I attend to because I have so many things going on. Some of those things include my morning routine, which includes a workout time, includes time to read scriptures for me. I do to make sure I take my vitamins at that time. I shower. I kind of look over my day and I set goals for that day or make sure that the meat is pulled out for dinner or whatever that is. That's my morning block. I have a school block, and that's where my phone is silenced. I give full 100% attention to my kids, making sure all of their things are happening and moving forward and that they are successful and I'm teaching them. Then I have a work block, which is where I spend any time that I need to send emails, check emails. I tutor a couple students, so that would be during that block time. And anything else that would be a work activity is all within that block. And then I have my housework time. So we do a house cleanup in the evening. That is the same time that I start my dinner prep, and we might tackle, say the pantry or the laundry room or the living room, something that might need a little extra help because it's just been falling by the wayside. So that's my housework block. Then we have dinner time, and that's pretty much consistent of we spend time eating dinner together, we clean up dinner as a family, and then start getting ready for or going into our evening time. And so that could also include, like if I want to edit a video on a certain night or something like that, I would sneak that into that time. Or if we're going to play a game or do something intentional as a family, that would also go in that dinner block. And then we have our evening time, making sure everybody's brushing their teeth, making sure that I take anything extra that I need to take, like I take iron, making sure that my room, I do a 5-minute tidy in my evening block just to kind of reset and make sure things are going well. And that the sink is shined and there is a load of laundry and the dishes are all rolling because I don't want to wake up and be the angry person in the morning with my night person. I don't know if you feel that split, but sometimes my morning person is not so happy with my night person. So that is what my block schedule looks like. So I can look at that and see how are my blocks rolling. But I also have just a general schedule of how our family should go. I actually keep a control journal. And if you're interested in knowing more about what that is and create a video for that, just let me know and I'll link it to this video. But in my control journal, it has all of my calendars that I have for my family. It has our schedule, that how things should be running for the week, how homeschooling should be running for the week. It's my place where I keep my menus because I don't veer too much from my menus. I want to keep it consistent. I have cleaning zones and I have projects or like overall lists of things that I want to keep track of. A brain dump area, a project, or areas that need to be organized, etc. I don't want to lose that. So all of that is in this one binder that I have here. And I just check that to see first, how am I doing? Am I meeting all of my weekly things that I'm trying to meet? How are things going? I honestly don't have to go much further into this binder here than a glance, because honestly, most of the time when I do an assessment for how I'm doing, things automatically come up. As I'm talking to you about my blocks, I can already tell you that my 5-minute clean has kind of gone by the wayside because we've done a lot of movies and late night hangout times with family in the evening. And so that has kind of bumped that because we just go straight to bed. So that's fine. That's okay if this is the season where we want to do that. I am enjoying that time. But I also know that I want to make sure that that is being addressed or getting some attention because it needs it. So I will either change my time of when I'm going to do that, or I will make sure that we break and I hit that 5-minute cleanup, whichever one is best for our season. The other thing that I am trying to figure out is how do I create videos and where do I edit them and fit that into our flowing schedule. So I personally really like to make sure that things are paired up as I'm creating or as I'm doing things. They're paired up with other routines, so we always do them. And so that's one thing that I'm trying to just see if I can figure out how better to squeeze that in. So I will sit down and just take out a piece of paper, or I'll take out my schedule and I'll look over my schedule and say, what does best fit? Where does this best fit in? And give it a try. The beauty about 6 weeks is that I only have to live with something for 6 weeks. Then it can move on and it can change and develop, or the season might change and I might have to relook at it. But I always write it down, and the reason why is the same as if you were to go on vacation for a length of time. Say that you went on vacation for 10 days to a month, any of that amount of time. You might not be, when you get home after 10 days, I don't usually take this long of vacation, but you might. But if I came home after a length of time, maybe even a week, my routine would be off. Let's say that we came home and then I was off of a routine for my exercising. And what do I do? You know, if I don't have a list of things that I like to do, or something I know I always go here to do my workouts, or I always do XYZ for our routines, then it could just be going by the wayside if I don't keep track, if I don't have a schedule that I'm trying to follow. And so that's kind of the reason why I keep track of what I'm doing for 6 weeks at a time, so that I can adjust and grow and just do better at as a mom and as a person and as a leader. I just want to grow and develop. And so I'm going to do the things that help those areas. And keeping track of them is definitely an important area. So that is what I do for an assessment of my own time. I just consider, I ponder what I'm doing. I pull out my calendar and my schedule of what I've been currently doing, and I just look and see what has been dropped, what needs to make sure, like if I've forgotten to do my morning basket and then I'm like, oh no, I had to pay that bill, that would be an issue, right? So I need to make sure that my, some people call it a Sunday morning basket, that my basket of bills is taken care of, right? And so I want to make sure all of these things are meeting the mark and being taken care of. And if they're not, what do I need to do to adjust and change that schedule? So that is my assessment for me. Then I do another assessment, and that is of how are my kids doing? How are we with actually doing the schoolwork? What areas are we missing? What areas are kind of falling off of the chart, or like being forgotten about. What areas are we thriving in? What areas are we giving a little more attention maybe than we need to? Those are the things that I want to make sure that I think about for each child. So my older kids, I have been teaching them to be independent and doing actually some of this all on their own. They are currently scheduling their own calendars and they write things out. They write a checklist for each day and what they need to do for school. And I just assess them as an overall, how are we doing in each subject? And I kind of talk to them, how much time are you committing? How do we adjust this? And I am now, for 15-year-olds, having the conversation to help them think through what they're doing. But for my younger ones, my 11-year-old, he's not quite there, and he has a checklist that I create for him every day or every couple days, and it just has what we're supposed to be doing. So I make to have that checklist, I make a schedule for his schooling. So I have this here in my control journal, and or my control binder, and I actually have one for each child. But this one for Kellen, this is just my map of, hey, I know everything that I want to give attention to, every area, every subject, every curriculum that I have spent good money on. I want to make sure that I'm doing my best and I'm being accountable to those things. And so I have this right here to look over. And I can already tell you, without even glancing at this, I know our spelling and our handwriting has kind of been pushed to the wayside. It has time scheduled in here. So then I have to ask myself, am I putting too much in one section of time? And I do think I have it scheduled with our lunchtime here. And I also read to them at lunch. So we're probably going a little bit longer at lunchtime, and I'm not being accountable to say, okay, now you need to go and do this. And so I will make a note of it in my block schedule. So for next week, I will put a note in the school section, make sure Kellen does his spelling, or make sure Kellen does his handwriting, or whatever it is. And the same would be for you, whatever area you see, oh, it's fallen off the bandwagon. Do I follow this 100% in schedule? Absolutely not. But if I know it doesn't fit in my time frame to actually accomplish these things, then that means we don't have time for that curriculum, and I have to decide what is the most important. If these things are important to me, we need to make sure we give time to them, and I need to make sure that it's actually having follow through. And some of it is, I don't want to do it, and so when mom goes into her work block, I might not do what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that's where we can check the checklist. We can look at the workbooks, or double check what it is that they are actually working on and make sure it's happening. But in addition to, we can also cut things for another season. So for us, when we go into the spring, we do for Classical Conversation something called Memory Masters. For this will be Kellen's last year of doing that, and that is for older kids usually. There are exceptions, but 9 years old and through 12 years old, they memorize the entire curriculum for Classical Conversations and recite it in one sitting. And so that's 7 subjects that they are reciting through all of their pieces of memory work. And so during that time, I know that that is a time commitment. We spend more time really trying to drill that into memory. And so something else might fall off the bandwagon. Right now, Kellen's doing double time on math. That won't happen in the spring. And so once we finish, which is like the start of May, we might have to come back to a subject that we've kind of let fall off the bandwagon in sacrifice for this greater goal that we have for the season, but we're going to come back to it. However, if it's falling off the bandwagon and you didn't want it to fall off, or if you just forgot, this is the time to assess and say, oh, wait, we haven't done that. So I'm going to make sure we do that first thing, or I'm going to link that with lunch or a snack, or when we are driving in the car, I'm going to have somebody read to me, or whatever it is. You're going to decide when you're going to do it, to be very intentional to work that back into the schedule. So that way it doesn't continue to stay off, because if we have good intentions and we don't make a schedule or make something change, then it's insanity, right? Isn't that the saying? It's insanity if we continue to think it's gonna be different, but do nothing to change it. So instead, let's make a schedule. Let's plan for how we're going to include that. Try to pair it with an activity that would go well with it. One example that I have given before is that we like to listen to audiobooks for books that we're trying to get through as a family, and we'll listen while we clean up the house. So I paired an activity that we always do. You have to clean your home, so we just turn it on, and it actually makes it very pleasant and enjoyable to go ahead and clean the house because we get to pair it with this activity that we enjoy, which is listening to a book. But it could be however you want to do it. We just want to make sure that we are giving the attention and the time to the areas that we need to. And if you realize that you have given a ton of attention to math and reading, for example, and you feel like we have used all of our extra energy on character or working through some things with those two areas, and you're like, okay, we're up to here, it's okay to say that too. And it's okay to recognize this is a season. We're gonna get through the season, but right now, what is my best choice for our family? What can I do to help my family grow? Because these areas, they are important as well. So if you have to deal with character, or if you are only getting through math and reading, and then we have some just like exhaustion or something else, slowly build back as you feel ready, but don't feel the pressure that your schedule has to look like this all the time, because mine doesn't look like this all the time. And I recognize when I have to pull back in something, and so I do. I just want to make sure that if I'm spending the money on it, if I really felt like it was a value, and so I wanted to add it into the year, I had a place on the schedule that we could actually accomplish that. So that is kind of the way that I process and approach assessing my kids, is I take their schedule, and if you haven't created a schedule, that's okay. You don't have to have one already created. Gather up all of your curriculum, look at where are we at in our curriculum, how much time have we already committed to each of those things, or do we need to commit more time? And even write out a schedule if you feel like you are unsure of where you're at, or how much time is being given to each thing, or what you need to do to be successful in those areas. Write it down. But if you feel like whatever you're doing right now is okay, just gather the materials all together, just give them a quick glance and see where are we at, where should we be at to be able to get fairly far into the curriculum, or to a place that you feel satisfied. That's probably a better way to say it, with each curriculum, and then go from there. Pull one book out if you feel like it's not the season for that, stick it on the shelf, and it'll always be there when you're ready. So 6 week breaks are awesome for that, because you only have to think about it for this 6 weeks. Obviously, in December, which is where we're at right now, our 6 weeks is gonna look different than it does in the spring, or it's gonna look different than it did in the fall, because we have holidays and a lot of holiday parties. That's okay. Just assess where we're at, assess your curriculum, and just consider what is most valuable for right now, and keep going forward. The whole goal of this assessment time is just to make sure that you are making steps in the right direction, and that you are keeping yourself and your child accountable to achieve the things that you all want to achieve, which is an excellent education. So I hope that is helpful. And tomorrow we will be talking about organization. You're gonna watch me, and you can join me by tackling an area of your home as well. And I'm going to organize my embarrassing hutch. It's so bad. But until then, we are going to sign off, and I hope that you have a great night.